Alright, so hi everyone, I'm Upsetmax. Welcome to another FITGMR Training Grounds TFT Masterclass. Today we are going to be talking about 5 different comps that are currently meta and played a lot, finding success on the current PBE. And since we are on the final major patch, these comps will most likely not be tinkered with too much before the live launch occurs in 6 days. So if this interests you, then this is the video for you. If you are watching this in the actual Training Grounds Discord, then feel free to ask any questions throughout the class. And if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions, and be sure to join the Discord server in the description. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So meta comps on PBE/live. We're going to be talking about 5 different ones today. First one is going to be talking about Sniper Ashe and how to play flexibly around this core. We're going to move on to the Kayn Morgana duo, the ghostly duo. We're going to hit up some reroll with Mythic Bard, some Dragonlord's Altruists, which can cap really high on level 9, and then finish off with some newly buffed Yone reroll. So Yone was not very good at the very start of PBE, but recently he's gotten two buffs in a row on 2 different patches, so we'll check out how to play him. Okay, let's get into it. 5 major comps to play. First one's going to be Snipers Ashe Flex. So Ashe is going to be our main carry here, and she is a Porcelain and Sniper. So just remember that Porcelains, after they cast, they gain extra attack speed and some damage reduction. So in this case, most of the time we're going to be playing 2 Porcelain unless we get a spat. So that'll only be 30 attack speed and 20% DR for 4 seconds, which is still quite good. And then the second part of her kit is Snipers, so she will gain 1 extra range. And then Snipers has been around for a while. You get extra % damage per hex, depending on how far away you are from the targets that you hit. So this is going to be our Ashe carry, and then her ability is basically she fires a volley split of arrows, hits the 3 closest enemies, and deals physical damage based off of how many arrows she has, and she gains extra arrows just per attacking. So this is the entire kit that we'll be playing around. Sniper's Ashe Flex is going to be a level 8 4-cost comp, and then eventually we're going to cap it with 5 costs on level 9. I mean, we could play 5 costs on level 8 as well, but that is not always going to be the case. It's pretty high roll to hit 5 costs on level 8. This is going to be primarily physical damage class, or like a composition, so we're going to be needing Sunder. Snipers is not craftable, however we can create Porcelain Emblem from a spat and a bow. So this is the intro into Sniper's Ashe. Here what the 2 boards will look like. So the first one up here is if we have extra Bruiser AD items. Basically, it's really easy to flex and play Kayn in this board as well. This is level 8 board. We have some solid 4 costs in here. We have a 4 cost tanks, 4 cost melee carry, and then 4 costs our ranged AD carry. And then we also have the traits of Reaper activated for Kayn, which is very good. So then if you have extra, like, if you played early game tempo, and let's say we had like a Hodge or a Last Whisper. I mean, Last Whisper can go on Ashe as well, which is very good. But like, let's say a Hodge or just like melee items, Titans, BT, then we can be looking to dual carry Kayn within this comp with our Ornn as our main tank. If the opposite, if we have AP items, then we could look to play around Morgana as well. And then this is another board we could play. In both boards, we both have 3 Faded activated with our Thresh, Aphelios, and then our +1. And eventually this +1 can be replaced for set as well if you hit set. But this is excluding 5 costs. This is going to be like most of your games, you're just going to be playing around 3 and 4 costs because you won't always hit a 5 cost. So here are our flexible boards depending on our items. Because we have Sniper active, we want to be positioning Ashe opposite side of the main enemy carry. So then she is hitting as far away from the enemy carry and is dealing more damage with Sniper. Our main tanks, depending on whatever you 2-star first, only in the top one is going to be either Ornn or Nautilus, but then in our bottom board here, our main tank is going to be Ornn. And then remember, since we are a physical damage comp, we either need Last Whisper on the Ashe or an Even Shroud. If you have neither, then you can position Aphelios right beside the Ashe, which is a very like small substitute, because on the Aphelios ability, he sunders the 3 closest targets. The problem with this though is clumping is really bad in this set. There is so much backline AoE, especially with the 5 costs. So you want Ashe to be a little bit isolated on her own, of course behind the main tank, so she doesn't get wrapped on and killed right away. However, positioning Aphelios really close is not ideal, and she will get hit with Hui, she'll get hit by Set. Well, I guess Set can hit her anyway, but there's a lot of AoE for the backline, like even Lilia. So just keep that in mind when positioning. Those are what the boards generally look like. Another variation you do is a Aphelios reroll. So the level 7 board fits in really nicely in this composition. You have, well, you're going to be rerolling Aphelios as the name suggests, Ashe as a dual carry, Ahri eventually be Syndra, and then on level 7 we have a 40% chance of seeing 3 costs. So then depending on the lobby, or just if you're able to hit both, that is great. I'm going to be either rerolling Alawi or a Mumu. Rerolling Thresh is okay if you're able to hit him as well, or if you have like an early Thresh 2 and Alawi 1, a Mumu 1, then put your items on him for sure. However, Alawi and Mumu, at least right now, are definitely better tanks than the Thresh. So there's another one, and then as I mentioned earlier, I feel like only sunders on the ability cast. So for the first part, this is for 7 seconds, which is actually a decent amount of time. However, for the before the first cast, you still want some sunder before the actual cast comes in. So either a Last Whisper. Okay, I probably wouldn't build Last Whisper, but I would do definitely an Even Shroud on one of the frontline units that we are 3-starring. And then items on Aphelios, we don't know this right now, but it's along the lines of like a Rage Blade, Death Blade, Infinity Edge. Giant Slayer is also really good. Runons is okay as well. Like Last Whisper is fine as well, even though he has built-in Sunder. So along this, but you need to make sure that you have some attack speed, some physical damage, and then the ability to crit is very nice on Aphelios as well. Okay, so we talked about a couple different ways we could play around Sniper Ashe. We talked about if you have physical, like melee items. We talked about if you have ability power or AP magic damage items. And then we also talked about even rerolling Aphelios as a potential option. We move on to some augments now. So Boiling Point is our porcelain traded augments. Basically, the porcelain units will gain extra mana when they attack. It's 5 extra mana, and also they'll apply burn. Or at least wound. They'll apply wound, so you don't need to build heal cut anymore with this augment. Long shot basically will give you sniper's focus after your snipers have hit over 1200 hexes worth of attacks, which can be very good. You could put it on one of your main carries. Sometimes you'll have Ashe, or Ashe will already be fully itemized, so you can just put it on a secondary carry. Even like Morgana is fine. Jewel Lotus 3, very, very good combat augments. Harmless Vampirism, having some sort of healing, also because there's so much backline AoE. Binary Airdrop is very good in this comp. We have a lot of different carries, or just units that benefit very well from items. So just being able to put like sorry about that. Being able to put 2 items here, like 2 items here, even like a Mumu is very good, 2 on Morgana, and then like, so it's very, very good. Binary Airdrop, it might be disabled right now, but it'll probably be back on for the first patch of live. So look out for that. Overwhelming Force, DB plus IE are 2 of Ashe's best items. These are substitute items as well. Like she uses a wide variety of physical damage items, Trash to Treasure, and then Patient Study and Epic. So that is Ashe, very good comp right now. Once you have hit your board on level 8, you'll be starting to go level 9 and trying to play some 2-cost legendaries to cap out your board and try to secure that first place. So moving on, we're going to talk about Kayn Morgana flex. So our main traits here are going to be, well, shared trait Ghostly between our Kayn and our Morgana. This is kind of a support trait, like support for the team trait. Yes, you will get some healing for your Ghostly units. However, the main part is getting specters onto the enemy units, and then they will deal extra percentage, or they will take extra percentage bonus damage for each specter on them. So this is like a damage trait, but also a little bit of a support and like tanky traits. Regardless, pretty good. Also, I got a recent buff to go from 7 to 6 times for upon dealing or taking damage. So that's pretty good. And then I'll talk about the different boards we could play for that. Reaper is going to be with Kayn. So basically, Kayn, once Reaper is activated, he will be able to critically strike. So like built-in IE, and then it gains some crit strike chance. And then Sage is kind of like the previous set's strategist. However, instead of shielding in the front, it's now Omnivamp, and then the backline is still ability power. So Kayn Morg Flex, this is going to be a level 8, another level 8 standard comp where we're playing around 4 and 5 costs. Because we're playing both of these units, we're going to have a nice mix of physical and magic damage so that enemies cannot counter us as easily. And it's very good, this duo of Kayn and Morgana. Basically, we have our single target with Kayn, and then we have our AoE with Morgana. So they cannot necessarily hard comp against us, but then they can't really spread out against the board as well. So very good. Let's talk about how to play it. First way we could play it, if you have a Story Weaver opener, which is a very strong opener, just having an extra KL, extra units, right? We could go for the 4 Bruiser. 4 bruiser Kayn Morg duo, where Morgana we have Morello for sure, and then plus another mana item. Blue buff, Shojin, Adaptive Helm, all these are fine. I think Shojin's a little better than the other two. And then Kayn for our frontline, Hodge, Last Whisper, Eon, Steric, all these are good as well. We're going to be playing 4 bruisers, so Galio is going to be our main tank, and then Silas can hold some extra melee but mage items as well, like blue buff, Spark, BT, Titans. These are all good items on Silas as well. So very good. One thing to note with the Kale, if you're playing this early, most of the time you'll be taking the attack speed Kale, which is perfectly fine. However, if you are taking in Kale later and you do not have Sunder or you do not have Spark yet, then it is okay to go with the Talisman of Aid. This is the right, like not correct right, but as in like left, middle, right option of Kale, the green one, and she will provide Shred and Sunder off of whoever she attacks. So that's the first option. The second option is if we hit an Ornn and then we play around the 4 ghostly board. Ornn extremely good in today's meta, being able to just print items or temporary items, but still temporary items onto your allies is extremely good. Yeah, it's just really good. And then this is another board that you can play, still activating our main traits of Sage, Ghostly, Reaper. So very good, definitely flexible. And then depending on what you hit on your roll down or even your start, you can play either board. One thing to note for both boards, you want to be second rowing your Kayn. Basically, we just don't want to be getting aggroed immediately. So second rowing your Kayn is extremely good. Yeah, basically that's it for his positioning. And you want to make sure you have a general like strong side and then like a general, not weak side. Technically it is weak, but you want to have a general strong side. So like on our strong side here, right, we have like our Galio, Kayn, and our Morgana. Instead of like being spread out, like if Kayn is over here, then only like a itemless Riven 2 is being targeted first before your Kayn. So make sure that you have your strong side paired together. Same thing here. And then this comp does extremely well with Ornn items. So you'll see on the next couple of slides, I'll talk about Trash to Treasure. But there's a lot of good Kayn items that he can use. So like Death's Defiance extremely good, Infinity Force extremely good on him. And then other items you can also use on him is like Last Whisper, Giant Slayer. And then I would talk about Morgana. Basically, Morgana just wants a Morello and a mana item, and she will chill the entire enemy team and provide healing heal cuts. So yeah, that's the premise of the board. Once you hit this on level 8 once again, you can start going level 9, and then depending on your board, you could put, actually most of the time you'll just be playing a Rakan 2. It's very good in the top board, it gives you Altruists, and then very good in the bottom board as well, it'll give you Dragonlord. Okay, so that is what the 2 potential boards looks like. We're going to move on to the augments now. So since we do have a melee carry, we will already be building healing on him. Gets a little bit from healing of Ghostly as well. But however, Vampirism and Harmesis are bis on this composition. Geolotus 3 is still very good, although we can already crit like our other units can just benefit from as well. And it's just extra damage for Kayn. Binary Airdrop, same reasoning as our previous board. We have a lot of units that benefit extremely well from items, so we have a lot of units and a lot of different carries that we can itemize. Freaky Friday is really good, Triforce or Infinity Force very good on Kayn, and then we could pair the other one on Silas. Reaper Crystal Crown will allow us to play 4 Reaper. Trash to Charger, I already mentioned the Ornn items being very good in this comp. And then last but not least, Patient Study or Epic. Epic allows us to tempo very well and continuously playing a strong board. And then Patient Study will just help us get to level 8 very fast, and then, or at least very reliably with a lot of gold to roll, and then will even help us go level 9 after. Okay, so that is the Kayn Morgana duo flex boards. So now we've talked about Ashe and the Kayn Morgana. We're going to move on to some reroll now. So no longer our standard level 8 4-2 roll down. We are now going to be pressing the D key on level 7. So the first one I'll talk about is Mythic Bard. Mythic, kind of a new trait, kind of looks like old Warlords if you played back then, slash Noxus. But basically the Mythic trait, it will give the Mythic units health, ability power, and attack damage. So pretty good HP, AD, and AP. And then after they are fielded for 4-player combats, they become epic and increase this bonus by 50%. So this is very good. Bard benefits both from physical damage and ability power. So Mythic, of course, very good on him. And then the next part is Trick Shots. Basically the abilities will ricochet, and we'll be playing 2 Trick Shots, well, at least for the first board I'll show. So 1 ricochet, and then we get a little bit of AoE going. For Bard, basically, once he casts, he has 6 seconds where attacks will throw 2 meeps, and one will deal, or they will each deal physical damage and magic damage for each meep he throws. So basically, just from reading this, Bard does a hybrid of physical and magic damage. So we'll see how we'll itemize him. So this is one of the boards that we could play. For now, this seems like the most optimized board. Maybe we'll see something on live, but this is working out quite well. We'll basically re-rolling once again on level 7 and trying to 3-star our Tahm Kench and our Bard. Remember, on level 7, you have a 40% chance of seeing 3-cost units, so this is the ideal level to roll. For itemization on Bard, because he does a lot of neutral type damage, we're going to be wanting attack speed and bonus percentage damage item on him. So what does this mean? Guard Breaker, it's very neutral. Giant Slayer, red buff, and then we want a Rage Blade on him as well. So potential like builds can be like, oh, Rage Blade, Gunblade, Guard Breaker. It can even be Rage Blade, Gunblade, like set 10 Kale. So along these lines is fine, but you need to have some sort of attack speed, some sort of percentage bonus amp, and then Gunblade is always good because we are a stall composition. Oops. In terms of Tahm Kench itemization, if you do not have Talisman of Aid on the Kale, so same thing, this works out very well because Bard does physical and magic damage, so being able to shred and sunder with Kale is very good. We can skip the Even Shroud and Spark unless we're just going to make it based off of our item economy, and then we'll be making items such as Gargoyle Stone Plate, Steadfast Heart, and then like a Redemption or Dragon's Claw, along those lines. One thing to note is, since we're playing 4 Bruiser, these units will have an insane amount of bonus HP. So although Warmogs will give even more HP, it's still better to build resistances and damage reduction instead of more HP on top of HP. So that is how you build both the Bard and the Tahm Kench. Moving on, once you get the Bard or Tahm Kench, you would want to field them ASAP, start to get that epic process going of 4-player combats. So then by the time 4-1 comes around and you're really sending it, they will hopefully already be epic and you can start winning out quite easily from there. And then very last part I mentioned already, Talisman of Aid, providing both the shred and sunder that you need. But if you already have it from like your Even Shroud or Spark, then you could go the attack speed option. Attack speed is, once again, like starting attack speed, extremely good on Bard, especially with Rage Blade, and will help him stack up even faster. You might be noticing a certain trend within all these comps. We have our strong side. Make sure you're always positioning your main carry behind your main tank. If we're opposite here, like let's say Bard and then Kayn and Sever on the right side, as soon as our Riven dies, and then Silas is not very tanky, he's more of a damaged bruiser with no CC, so very good early but kind of falls off late. Our entire this side is going to be getting walked on or even wrapped. So make sure you have your main ranged carry behind your main melee tank. Yeah. Okay, the second part, if we get Lucky Ricochet, so this means that trick shots will bounce an additional time for 50% original damage. We can play the 4 trick shot version and really just have an insane amount of DPS. It does have a weaker front line, or at least less units, so then Gargoyles increases in value. And then eventually you will swap out this Teemo for Xayah, and you can itemize her as well. So very good comp as well. I probably would not play this version unless I had Lucky Ricochet, but playing 4 trick shots, you will obliterate the entire enemy board. Okay, and then augments, it's going to be epic, getting that extra HP, getting that extra gold for epicking your mythics. And then you can also play just the different like lower cost mythics early just to activate this, like your Kog'Maws, your Cho'Gaths, even your Nikos. Pumping up, Bard loves attack speed, pumping up his attack speed. Joe Lotus is always very good. Trash to Treasure, Vampirism, Ascension, Final Ascension, we are a stall comp, so playing using these augments are extremely good. By the time 15 seconds comes around, Bard will be most likely decently stacked up and then ready to fire his meeps all across the enemy. Unified Resistance, I mentioned this earlier, 4 Bruiser, so mixing this with Resistance is very good. It is a lot more effective tankiness. We are re-rolling, so March Progress and Shopping Spree is very good. And then 2 for 1 being the best, being able to buy Bard and being able to buy a 3 cost in your shop and then being able to get 2 is very, very high value. So look out for this augment for sure. Okay, let's move on. So we have talked about 3 now. Moving on to our fourth composition in meta. We have the Dragonlord Altruists Sage package. So you may have already seen this. There's 2 ways we can play this. You can either re-roll on level 6 and 7, or you can go fast 9 and then cap out around that Rakan and Rakan, Wukong, and and Irelia. Sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister there. This comp has been heavily nerfed since the very patch of PBE, but it's still quite good. You still see this composition having success, so I'd say about A tier. Used to be like S plus OP, and then it's primarily a magic damage composition until you reach level 9, where you can tech in Wukong and Irelia. Altruists, it gives the whole board armor and magic resist, and then also the Altruist units heal the lowest ally on your team. One thing to note, Riven doesn't really do any damage. Another thing to note, Soraka does a lot less damage than she used to, and then Rakan also does a lot less damage than he used to. However, I'm pretty sure, well, okay, I know for sure Rakan is still a very good unit. Dragonlord's kind of like the old Tempest trait. After 8 seconds of combat, something will strike the board, dealing percentage health on the enemies, and then also this will grant all allies attack speed for the rest of the combat, not just Dragonlord units. So this is a very good supportive trait that benefits your whole team. And then I already talked about Sage. This is what the two boards will look like. The very first one is a level 6 to level 7 reroll. You want to be rerolling on level 6 for Janna, where you'll have a 40% chance of seeing a 2 cost. And then after you hit this, you could then go to Diana reroll, where you'll have a 40% chance of seeing a 3 cost unit once you hit level 7. Of course, if you somehow get a unit that you want to play, and so for example, this top board, it'll be everything except playing the Rakan. So if you hit like a Galli or Annie, and then you can play it and really increase the power of your board, you can go to level 7 preemptively, and then this 40% chance goes down to 32, which is still okay, but then it will give you a much higher chance of hitting the Dianas, the Gallios, Annies, Morganas, and you'll have a stronger board in general. So this is the first option, is going to be re-rolling once you hit Janna 3, Diana 3, and then just the rest of your supporting units. You can eventually go level 8, try to find a Rakan, maybe off carousel, maybe a high roll one, maybe it's the region, and your board is looking very, very good. The second option is just to tempo 2 cost units. This is going to be, I guess, kind of more the standard play style. You're going to just tempo the board with 2 stars, and then once you hit level 9, you can start fitting in your legendaries, and then once you hit a 2-star, you're pretty stable. And then you kind of just take over the entire board. This has, or the entire lobby. It's a very high cap once you hit like a Wukong 2, Rakan 2, and then eventually you can even play like a Lee Sin, swap out the Zyra for a Irelia. So then you have duelists between the Lee Sin and the Irelia, and then Irelia 2 is better than Zyra 2. So very, very high comp, very high potential, and the actual traits just work extremely well together. Looking at augments for this, healing is always very good. Vampirism and Harm Assist, Jewel Lotus 3, also very good. Magic Wand is extremely good in this composition. We're going to lead Infinite Rods as we are a magic damage composition, and also apart from the Heavenly of Soraka, we do not have any traits that, or okay, a little bit from Sage as well, but we're not playing like a Arcanist composition where the traits give us an absurd amount of AP. So getting the extra percentage team-wide AP from Magic Wand is very good as well. But the main fact is it gives us a rod, and we need like 6 or 7 rods in this comp. More like 5, but yes. Binary Airdrop is probably the best augment in this composition. 2-item Diana, 2-item Galio, 2-item Soraka, 2-item Janna, 2-item Zyra. It's just absolutely insane. And then like once we itemize our Wukong or Rakan, is going to be even better. This whole team just works extremely well together. Infinite shields, infinite healing, damage reduction, attack speed for everyone, more healing in the front, AP in the back, and then we have Kayle as well, providing even more attack speed. Crash to Treasure, Patient Study, Epic. Enter the Dragon is the Dragonlord specific augments. And then Dragonlord Crest and Crown, we can tech in 5 Dragonlord once we hit Lee Sin and our Rakan, and it's very good. It will stun the entire enemy board for 1.5 seconds and deal a lot of damage. So that is the Dragonlord Altruist comp. Very high cap, either from the rerolling and then eventually pushing levels, or just tempoing and pushing levels. It's very stable. I've seen this board just like being two-star version, like even without the legendaries. Like this is a high roll if you hit both. But you don't have it, then you just play like a Lee Sin or your strongest board, even like an Annie 2. And then a 2-cost version of this board is very stable on stage 4. People just send it fast 9, hit up the Wukong, the Rakan, and it's very high cap. Okay, and our very last comp to go is going to be Yone Reroll. As I mentioned at the very start of the video, this unit has received 2 consecutive buffs across the 2 recent patches, so it's actually quite decent now. I don't know if it's S tier, but he seems to be quite unstoppable, especially if your enemy does not have single target damage or healing reduction. So Yone Reroll, 3 costs, right? At this point, we have realized that this is going to be a level 7 reroll comp. His 2 traits, Umbral, is kind of like a previous set's KDA. Basically, you're going to have some form of hexes, either looking like this, or like looking like this, something like that. Excuse the drawing. But basically, any units that are started in this hex will get a shield, and then any umbral units that start in these hexes will have some percent health execute on them as well. And then Reaper, we already talked about Reaper. Reapers can crit, and then they gain bonus crit strike chance. This is a back to front, mainly physical damage comp, because Yone, eventually his hexes from his dash will start increasing. So 3 hexes, then 4 hexes, you can see here. So each cast during this combat increases his dash range by 1. Eventually you can start hitting the enemy backline, which is very good because this is where the enemy carries are. And then once you kill the enemy carries, you'll fly back, or I guess like dash back, and then, well, the enemy carries are dead. There we go, back to front. There goes your backline. Very good. Here's how to play it. So you may not have thought about this, and this is still within the workings, but currently Heavenly mixed with Yone is finding the most success on the current PBE. It's definitely not vertical umbral if you have tried that out or were thinking about it, unless like somehow 6 umbral gets changed and the percentage execute is increased or something like that. But for now, we're going to be playing around Heavenly and 4 Reaper. 4 Reaper extremely good, getting the extra 50% bonus damage as a bleed. True damage is very good since we are be playing a main carry as our Reaper. So this is what our level, wait, what's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is what our level 8 board looks like. This is if we do not have any emblems. So if we have no Heavenly emblem, if we have no Reaper emblem, we'll have to manually play all 4 Reapers. And then the Reaper that we would want to drop here is Kindred. As you can see in the bottom board here, then we could play Soraka, put the Reaper emblem on Soraka or Silas if Silas has extra items like a BT or like a Titans, or even like, I don't think blue buff. Blue buff is okay, but basically if we have items on Silas, then you can put the Reaper emblem on Silas instead. But it's a lot better if you have a Heavenly +1 or / and a Reaper +1. We're going to be slow rolling on level 7 for this 3-star Yone, and actually not similarly to set 10 Yone, this Yone needs a QS or a Banshee's effect. The reason being is Yone has an uptime in his kit, so being able to consistently attack and not get CC during his uptime is extremely crucial. Yone is a Reaper, he can already crit. Technically, IE and Jewel Lotus is still bonus damage, however, it's still better to build other items. And eventually, we can cap out with a Wukong 2 and then a Morgana or additional legendary units. Currently, middle Yone, well, you can't always middle Yone. It's based off of the Umbral Hexes. Like, some Umbral Hexes go like this, and then like that. Or it can go, I think, on the other side, like this, and then like this. So you can't always middle him. Sometimes you can, if it's one of these configurations. But middle Yone means that by the 2nd or 3rd cast, maybe it might even be the 2nd, you can begin targeting the enemy carry backlines, which is going to be very good. I think actually it's the 2nd, might be the 3rd, depends on fight RNG, but quite good. Make sure you have some sort of healing on Yone because he is a melee unit, and he is going to be a stall / like stacking unit. So healing extremely important. And then he also has a lot of AP ratios, so a Titans on him is quite good as well for a bigger shield. Our dual carry is going to be Kayn. We talked about Kayn itemization, and then make sure you have 1 defensive item on Kayn as well. Okay, best in the slot augments for this Yone board. Vampirism and Harmonious, very, very good. More healing on melee units that need healing. Trash to Treasure. First off, this augment is just turbo busted, at least for right now. Being able to basically handpick, but not really, it's like semi-handpicked your Ornn items is just very, very good. But Yone uses some really good Ornn items, like Death's Defiance is very good. Triforce or Infinity Force is very good. And then you can have additional Death's Defiance or Infinity Forces on Kayn. Have your 3-star Nico hold like your Hull Breakers or your Eternal Winters. So many options for Trash Treasure. Gifts from the Fallen, it's very good. Any Reaper +1, Heavenly +1 is very good. And then we have our Heavenly traded augments and our Reaper traded augments. So yeah, that's how we play Yone. And then once you hit Yone 3, you can start going level 8 and then adding in extra Heavenly units. And then eventually, if you can get 7 out of 7 Heavenly with our Wukong in here, then you'll get the big W. Pardon the pun. All right, and that is it for today's class. I'll end the recording here.